welcome to this session. Thanks for joining our webinar today. I am Carol from Amazing Business Results, and we also have Abdul here. Abdul is an amazing developer, and he's going to walk us through some cool stuff inside of Creator. Today, we are going to be talking about lookups. And if you guys have any questions, just drop them in the chat and we'll answer them throughout the webinar. If you have questions that come up after the webinar, feel free to email those into us as well, and we'll cover them in the next one.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. So I'm going to walk through this entire session. And the topic is the lookup relationship in Zoho Creator. So as you all know, in Zoho Creator, it's just like drag and drop fields. So the main topic is how we can use lookup, in what situation we need to use lookups, and how we can create the structure. So we all know the normal lookup, but what is bidirectional lookup and how it differs from the normal lookup, and how we can use bidirectional lookup in the subforms. And finally, we are going to finish with the fetch statement in Deluge. So that's going to be a simple code. It's not going to be a code complex thing, but it's a simple statement where we can fetch using the code. I hope you can see my screen. So this is a simple order management application. It's right now there's nothing in this application, just the forms, no workflows, no automation at all. So I'm going to show you a few things. So here we have the company form where we store the company information, and this is the contact form where we can store the contacts of the companies or the individual contacts. And then we have the items, which are the items that we're going to sell, and then the invoice. So it's pretty basic. So this is like an invoice application where we can create an invoice for customers. So the main requirement is, let's say we have the contact form, we have the name, phone, email, and notes, and we have the company. And here also we have the company name, email, phone, website, addresses. But both of them are not connected together. So this is one of the good use case to use lookup. Right now, this two, company and contact, is disconnected. So we are going to create a connection using a lookup. So usually a company will have multiple contacts, in most cases, but it can be either one or more than one contacts. So we have to create that, the structure in that way so that the company should allow more than one contact, and then a contact should only have one company. So that's the usual use case. So I'm going to edit the contact form, and then in the left side, I'm going to add a lookup, and then I'm going to select the form, which is the company form, and then the company name. So we have to choose which application is, like we have multiple applications, but we are creating a lookup within that application. And then we need to choose which form from that lookup. So obviously we need to show the company in the contact. So we are choosing company form, and then the field to show at the front. So if you choose the company name, then the company name will be visible up front. If you choose any other field, then that information will be visible like that. So if you choose the email, then on the drop down, the email will be visible instead of the company name. Okay. We have created a company. So let's see this contact form now. Company is added. So right now there is no matches because there isn't any company. Let's add one company. Just add the company, and in the contact, I'll be able to see that. So let's say I'm creating a contact now. I'm choosing a company. So now the company is involved in the contact. So I will be able to see the company here, and then it's related, right? So this is a standard lookup connection. We created that. So here there's a requirement of bidirectional lookup, because right now the company is related to contact, but in the company, if you open that company record, we can't see anything related to the contact. So if we add a bidirectional connection, it will be possible to add the contact information right here in the company. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So I'm going to open the company form. Previously, we opened the contact form. Right now, we are opening the company form. And I'm going to add another lookup. And I'm choosing the contact and then the contact name. So if there is an existing relationship already there, then it will prompt us with this information, with this option. Existing relations are found for the selected form, enable bidirectional syncing. So we have to click on enable here to create that bidirectional connection because there is an already existing relations with the previous one. So that's why this is showing now. Previously it didn't show. And then we can choose the connection existing relation with the contact. This is a field that we created for that previous connection. So we are going to choose that and display format. So previously we selected drop down as a single selection. That is for the contact. But here in the company, we are going to choose more than one contact. So in that case, we have to choose the multiple selection and multi-select. So this way, it will be interconnected and then you can see the bidirectional relationship enabled. Let's see how it shows in the real record. So as I'm editing this record, it already shows the contact, which is already selected. So let's say I'm choosing another contact, this one, and I'm updating it. So there is another contact here, which doesn't have a company. The company is empty right now. So as soon as I update the contact in this company, it's automatically going to update in the backend. Here we can see that the company is automatically assigned. So it's like in both ways. If we change it here, it's going to reflect over there. If we change it over there, it's going to reflect here. That's the entire definition of bidirectional relationship. And this is one of the good use case. We can use it for this bidirectional. So we covered the normal lookup as well as the bidirectional lookup and the use case. So let's talk about bidirectional relationship in subforms. So we have an invoice form here. It's pretty basic invoice form, which has a company, contact, and a subform, which is for the item details, and few other information like the totals and all. So this subform right here, it's created as another form. So here we can see that there's an item details form. So in Creator, we can create a subform in two ways. One is by adding another existing form, it can create its own subform, and creating a subform as a blank subform. So that are the two options. Right now, we are using an existing form to build a subform. So the main advantages of this use case is we can create a relationship between the item details as well as the invoice. So let's say we have a requirement to know how much amount, how much items we sold for the invoice for the reporting, something like that. So in order to do that, we have to create a bidirectional lookup for the item details. So the item details form is already existing in an existing relationship with this invoice form as a subform. It's not having a lookup relationship, but a subform relationship. So even though it's a subform relationship, we can create a bidirectional lookup. So let me show you how you can do that. So I'm going to go to the item details form, and similarly, I'm going to drag and drop the lookup and choose the invoice form. Choose the invoice number. So here it's showing the same thing, existing relationship found. So the subform is also considered as a relationship similar to the lookup. So I'm going to enable that, and then it's going to show the item details, which is a subform, by the way, but it can create a relationship. And now we created that relationship with this subform. So let's go into the invoice form. I'm going to please select the contact. So there's no automation here, so I'm just now going to submit this like that. So now we have created one invoice record. And if we go to the item details report, that invoice will be interconnected. So this is the old one. So we can see this as an example. So this is the old one I created before, where you can see that the invoice is empty. But here we can see that the invoice has a value, which is the invoice number. So this line item is now connected with this invoice. So if you are generating a report or anything in terms of using the line items, it can be used to segregate the invoice, in any kind of reports. That's the main use case of the relationship, bidirectional relationship in the subform. So now let's dive into the filters. So before that, let me create another company and another account. Now we have another company and another contact. If I go into the invoice and select Amazing Business Results, it's showing all the contact. In similar way, if I choose SFIR and it's showing all the contacts. In most cases, we need to see only the contacts related to that company, right? So we have a simple option to do that without using any code. So we need to open that form and then we need to choose the contact because this is a field that we need to filter on, right? This is a field needs to be filtered based on the company. So when we scroll down at the right side, we can see the sub filter. We have to enable this option and provide a criteria. Here the criteria is the contact. We have the contact and then, we have the company ID. So the cool thing about the lookup is it's in the behind, it has a value of the ID instead of the name. So here, this is an ID of the company. So we are going to choose this and equals, and we are going to put the first field's link name. Just we have to put it in this way, input.company like that. And here we can see that this is the criteria. So I use this company field link name. So now if I refresh this and then select the company, and now we can see only that name. So there is a problem with the name. See that. If something is added on top of it. There is prefix here, so that's why it's passing that null. Yeah. So now we can see that when we choose the company as a pair, it only shows Simon. And when we choose the company, it only shows those contacts related to that particular company. So we covered the filters as well. And now let's go to the fetch part in the workflows. So let's take an example of pre-filling the billing address. So for a company, there will be a billing address, right? Let's put a billing address for 2 companies. So now we have updated the address here. Similarly, we'll update that over here as well. We have a requirement like when we select a company, it should fill in the billing address automatically because in the invoice, we need the billing address. So we can create a simple workflow. So let's go to workflow and then create a new one. Choose the form that we need to create a workflow. So right now, we need to create it under the invoice because that's where we need this automation. So let's choose the invoice. Choose wherever we need to pre-populate the autofill the information. So let's choose creator or editor because it happens in both places. And then the trigger. So there are multiple triggers. So for this use case, we need to use user input of the field because whenever the user chose the company, it should fill in the billing address. So let's choose user input field. And then we need to choose which field. So obviously, we need to choose the company field because whenever choose that option in that field, it should populate with a name and then create. Now creator, and we are going to add a new action.
So I have a question real quick. I'm sorry. Workflows in the CRM are more of a drag and drop type of automation. So in Creator, you're actually having to use Deluge for a workflow?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So Deluge is an option, but we have other options as well. But for this type, so we choose the user input. So for this one, Deluge is the only option.
Gotcha. Okay.
So here in this left side, we can see a lot of things are there, like the if condition, but we are going to concentrate on the fetch records. So let's drag and drop this. You can also write it directly, but we will choose this method, right? So I'm gonna give the variable as get company and then select the form. So this is like from which form we need the information. So right now we are under the invoice form because we created under the invoice. So we need the information from the company form because that's where the billing address stored in. So we need to choose the company there. And then the criteria. So if you don't give the criteria, it's going to get any company. So we need to instruct the code to choose the specific company that the user chose. So for that, we have to choose the field. So here is the important thing we need to keep in mind. So while giving the criteria, so let's show it here. So we are in the invoice form and we know the company here by selecting it here. And the information is stored in the company's record. So, theoretically, the criteria is whatever is chosen here, that this is the criteria. So we need to take the value from this field and compare it with the company's field. That's the entire criteria. So the one thing we need to remember is the value stored in this company field is not the name. You can see the name, right here, but it's not actually the name that's stored in, it's the ID that's stored behind the scene. So when we choose Amazing Business Results, it's not Amazing Business Results in the backend, it's a different ID. Same thing for any other company, same thing for any lookup. So basically, like, we can also show that value upfront in the ID, and that will make more sense. So let's say here, instead of the company name, we choose the ID, and if I come to that invoice, you can see that this is the value that's actually stored in. So now if I select this, this is the value that's showing, in the outside as well as the inside, but people cannot work with these numbers. So that's the reason that we can choose any upfront value while keeping the ID in the backend. So let's put the company name back, and then now we will know the criteria. So now we will know the ID is in the behind the scenes. So we need to choose ID here to match it. So we have to use the equal condition, and then the left side criteria is from the form, and then the right side criteria we have to put in the field value of that company field. Let's do input dot company, and then we have to return all the fields. That's fine, and insert. So again, I'm going to explain this one. So we are taking the value from the company form, and then the criteria is the company form's ID is equals to input.company, which is the value inputted in that form, in that field. So which means like this information in the company record and compared with the information that is entered in the company field right here. So that's why we have the criteria here, and that's why we have the input here, because this is the value actually from the invoice form. Now we get the record. So this variable will store everything in that record. And now we are going to just put input dot billing address. So billing address is like, it has a lot of other internal fields as well. Like we have address line 1, address line 2, like that. So for now, I'm just going to choose the address line 1 to show this. So right now we have added the left side criteria, left side thing, which is input dot billing address dot address line 1. So whatever information that we are going to give in the right side is going to apply to that left side, to that field. So we are going to get the value from the get company variable, and then billing address, same thing over there, and then address line 1. So now we are giving that address from the company to this field in the invoice. So I'm gonna save this one and then close it. And as soon as I refresh and select the company, that address line 1 is going to pop up here. So as you can see there, it is shown, and then as soon as we change it, it's going to change here as well. So like that, we can put it for all the fields or any other fields that we need to do. So I hope it's all clear. Let's take the questions.
Yeah, so we have a few questions that came through. So number one, is a form comparative to a module in the CRM?
Exactly.
Okay,
Let's compare to the module in CRM.
okay. Can you create an automation on the invoice subform? So the item details, you said there is no automation and you are having to put in the amount and the taxes and all of that. Can we create automation so that all automatically populates?
Exactly. So just like we create an automation using the company name field that's showing the address, similarly, we can create a automation for each field in the subform. So when we choose the
Perfect.
product to fill in the unit price, exactly the same way.
Are you able to link your items from Zoho Inventory in there?
We can using custom functions by connecting create a record as well as the inventories, Zoho inventory record, stocks and all like that.
Okay, and then is it the same for Zoho Books? So if you create an invoice, you're able to send it to Zoho Books with the custom function?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we need to create more fields, in order to push it in the Zoho Books, we need the tax information. So we need to create all the new other extra fields and then do that automation in using the function.
So that's all the questions that I got during the webinar. If anyone has any additional questions that come up after, like I said before, feel free to email them to me and we'll cover them in the next webinar. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. I appreciate your time today and I'll see you in the next one.